I think that was big news that happened in high school sports this week. This one kind of surprised me too because I wonder if they were going to go independent for much longer. But Dover, one of the big schools in Tuscarawas County, has been invited to join the Ohio Cardinal Conference. Now, there is a board meeting set for January. I expect this to pass, but you can never tell sometimes. It looks as if the Crimson Tornadoes, after leaving the ECOL after its disbandment 2 years ago, playing as an independent this past year against a bunch of other schools, still kind of a member of that Ohio Valley Athletic Conference Class 5A, where it just takes a whole bunch of schools from Ohio and West Virginia. But they're looking to rejoin a conference, and it's the same conference that their rival school, New Philadelphia, joined 2 years ago. They'll join six other teams potentially. I should have had them up here. I know that Mount Vernon is leaving the conference after 2024, and that was the thing too. The press release from the OCC said that Dover would be set to join, and I have the information here on BigTimeSportsOhio.com. Dover has been invited to join the conference starting in the 2025 season, and then the football team would join in 2026. I asked a couple sources around here about what the reason for that might be. One of them did say something along the lines of uh, what was it here? They probably already have football non-league contracts with other teams. So if they can't break those to set up like in division games, they just don't want to have to like worry about,
Yeah.
uh angering any of those schools who would then have to rush to find new opponents, especially in a football season where it's one game a week. So that makes sense to me now that I'm saying it. But yeah, Dover is a school that tries to pride itself on putting up the best possible opposition for themselves in order to get the most out of their athletes. And going to this Ohio Cardinal Conference is interesting because now you're playing a more regular schedule. You're obviously going to you're always going to have the rivalry in New Philadelphia, especially in football, but it's going to mean more possibly for conference championships now, and you're bolstering a conference that up until a few years ago was pretty set in their ways. This is a young conference, by the way, that was set up in 2003, and it was home to original members like Ashland, Lexington, Madison Comprehensive, Mansfield, West Holmes, and Worcester, with former schools being Orville and Clear Fork. So yeah, I'm very fascinated to see how Dover stacks up against these other schools, and you know how what they're if this might bolster the rivalry even more than it already does for the Tornadoes and the Quakers.
I think this is a very smart move. I also, like you, was wondering how long it would be before Dover found a conference. There's a school, for example, near us, that being Louisville, that is no longer in a conference. They are independent. Lots of reasons why they're independent, why they're not joining, or why the invite has never been sent out uh, for them to join the Federal League, much like the same thing could go with Massillon. Some people, Mitch, I think, forget that the Massillon Tigers are independent as well. They are not in the
Yes.
league. Now, the difference is Massillon, as long as I can remember, has always been independent. Over here has only been independent for about 2 years now, I believe. So I think it makes it's they're kind of caught in that middle right now where it's a little unfamiliar territory because you play these games matter, but at the same time, when you play games that matter in terms of standings for your league and conference to get conference titles, I think that adds more magnitude. I also think it helps prepare you more for postseason runs in all your sports. I really do. Obviously the flexibility of being independent, you can schedule whoever you want. The flip side is most teams you're trying to schedule are not independent, and you have to work around their schedules to fit other things in, or you're having to travel a whole lot. Um, I think this is a really good move for Dover, and the fact that that rivalry will still be going on really is very entertaining because you never want to get rid of a rivalry like that. And to your point, that was also where I was going with the football. I had a feeling they probably had games scheduled already under contract with of other non-league schools that it would probably be more work to get out of those contracts than it would be just to push the football team back another year from when they're going to allow Dover to join the OC. And I'm intrigued. I mean, how in terms of you and where you're at covering the teams in the South, how farther now are some of these other schools that are in the OCC going to be travel distance for you if you are to go cover the Dover Tornadoes?
Well, based on some of the travel experience I've had in covering New Philadelphia, like when you go out to West Holmes, it's about a 40 or so minute drive from the heart of Tuscarawas County. A lot of these teams are more towards the east, as far as I know, especially well, I mean, I believe West Holmes would be in the west in this case, because West Holmes is just near beyond Berlin. So yeah, that would be west. Um, yeah, it would probably be. It's a lengthier drive than a lot of IVC schools, and there was a rumor a few years ago that Dover was considering maybe joining the IVC, which would have been crazy because that's a pretty big school to be joining a lot of smaller schools in T County. Even though we've intaken teams like Indian Valley and all those places beforehand, so I don't know that would have been interesting. And I do have this note from Dover's press release. Dover put out a press release yesterday or Tuesday or yesterday as well. And this is yeah, from their offices. The OCC, the Ohio Cardinal Conference, that name is stems from the old Cardinal Conference, which lasted from 1960 to 1987, and Dover was one of the 4 charter members of that league until its disbandment. So full circle.